from Bulls Talk Podcast, Phil.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bulls Talk Podcast. This is the ninth episode of Bulls Talk Podcast. And you can only listen to Bulls Talk Podcast as of right now only on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel on Bulls Talk Podcast. And you can also follow me on Twitter, which my Twitter username is PDUH10. Let's get this started. I was trying to think what should I talk about next regarding the Chicago Bulls, and I have seen people, the media outlet, fans, whether it's on the message boards, and anywhere, post was the grades they give grades to teams for their off-season moves in the off-season, whether it's through the draft, trades, free agencies, that kind of stuff. And I've seen people give their post grades regarding the Chicago Bulls off-season, from the media outlet, from fans' perspective, and I should say the media give their perspective why they give the grades, and same with the fans base, whether the Chicago Bulls fans and other fan base give grades to the teams, including the Chicago Bulls. So it get me thinking that I will give the grades to our team, to the team, to the Chicago Bulls. And I'll give my perspective why I give that grade to the Chicago Bulls for this past off season. I will give my perspective with the grades and that kind of stuff. So that's what we gotta discuss about this, and probably maybe a little bit more something else regarding the Chicago Bulls for this episode. But we see what happens. Many media outlets like ESPN, Yahoo Sports, or wherever, give not a very kind grade regarding the Chicago Bulls. And they include other fans. There are some fans who will agree with the grades with the media give, and I see the grades like a D minus, F plus, or F minus, a D, and they're entitled of their opinion, entitled, whatever, what's their feel with why they give their grades to that team. I really disagree with the grades of a D or an F for what the Chicago Bulls did this off season. Let me ask you this: if the Bulls didn't do really much, let's say they don't trade Derrick Rose, they never signed Dwayne Wade, didn't sign Raja Wando, that kind of stuff. They didn't trade Derrick Rose, they don't bring Joakim Noah and Pau Gasol back. What grades will you give? What grades do you give to the Chicago Bulls in the off season if they didn't make any, they don't trade Derrick Rose and they don't do really much in the off season. They don't dump Mike Dudley Jr. nor what exactly your grades will be, because there's not much improvements. If there was, if the Chicago Bulls stay in course and they keep, let's say they don't trade Derrick Rose, and this is coming from that I don't like the trade regarding trading Derrick Rose to the Brooklyn Nets, but I do understand why they had to move on without Derrick Rose. I understand why they trade Derrick Rose. I even mentioned that a few episodes of this podcast. But say they keep Derrick Rose, but they don't bring Noah, they don't bring Pau Gasol back, and they have Mike Dudley Jr. for another season. There's not much room to to make some upgrade. What grades do you give? Who knows? I'll probably give it like a D, or at the very least. That's my opinion, but it's hard. To be fair, it's hard to give the team grades one of those what ifs, and when you actually don't know exactly what the team would do from the outlook, who they pick up in free agency and that kind of stuff. If they don't trade like Derrick Rose and that kind of stuff, they don't sign Dwayne Wade or Rajon Rondo, that kind of stuff, that kind of nature. Um, I didn't mention this maybe the last episode or a couple of episodes that I asked for the people who was criticized about the signing of Dwayne Wade, and I understand that he's aging. He's the age of 34-year-old. Um, but if he was a free agent and you have maybe the money to sign him, will you pass that up? Will you pass the opportunity to sign Dwayne Wade, a superstar Dwayne Wade who won 3 NBA championships with the Miami Heat? Will you pass that opportunity to sign him when you might be able to get him a strong chance to sign him, despite his age, the age of 34, and despite that bad fit under Fred Hoiberg's system, which I will talk about more about in terms of fitting more later on. Um, will you pass that opportunity to sign Dwayne Wade? I think not. Um, to the Chicago Bulls' credit, they did 50, probably like 50% overhaul with that roster, completely makeover, almost like 50% makeover with that roster. Choki Noah's gone, Pau Gasol is gone, Mike Dudley Jr. is gone. Um, who else? Kurt Heinrich's gone, of course. Well, he was traded at the trade deadline. Aaron Brooks is gone. You got Derrick Rose is gone. Now you got like a lot of new players, new faces on the team. You got Dwayne Wade, you got Rajon Rondo, you got Robert Lopez, Trent Grant, Spencer Dinwiddie, Isaac Cannon, Denzel Valentine, who the Chicago Bulls select on the 2016 NBA draft this past June. Um, you got that's your new, pretty much your new team. And Spencer Dinwiddie, I already brought him up. Trent Grant, I already brought him up. Um, to the book credit to the Chicago Bulls, they move on. They they make moves. A lot of Bulls fans, including myself, criticize that the Bulls don't make moves. They don't make risky moves, and it has been like that for a few years to improve that team. Even when Derrick Rose was healthy before he got injured, before he dealing with those injuries he have, and what else? I apologize. I'm not sure you able to hear it. You hear my dog barking, so I apologize for that. If you hear my dog's barking, so I'm not sure you're able to hear it. So, um, and now the book this off season, this past off season in July, the Chicago Bulls make a lot of moves, and it's all started trading Derrick Rose, whose contract expire next summer, and that which is clear, a little bit more cap room, which Rose is a big contract. And then they signed Rajon Rondo. I do understand about the criticism with the sign of Rajon Rondo. That I can clearly understand, because in terms of fit, because he's not known as a good outside shooter. I understand that, and plus his reputation when he was playing for Dallas, battle coaches like Rick Carl, who's a great coach for the head coach as a head coach for the Dallas Mavericks, and then he do have some battles with Doc Rivers here and there, but not as bad when he was playing for Dallas. Same apply with when he played for the Sacramento Kings when George Karl was coaching there. But it's not really much. They didn't clash that much there. But I understand why fans, media outlets, criticize with the Rajon Rondo sign, in terms of fit. Dwayne Wade, despite his age, despite his age, come on now, that 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 doesn't make really much sense. Yes, guard farmers say he wants to get he wants the team to get younger and athletic. Technically, the team did get younger in a sense. Think about it for a second. Look at the roster. Look at the age of the roster. You only got three players who are under contract with the Chicago Bulls is in their 30s right now. Only three players in their 30s. Dwayne Wade, 34, the age of 34, who is the oldest. Rajon Rondo, 30-year-old. And you got Taj Gibson in his early 30s. I believe 30-year-old right now. That's only three players, while the rest are in their 20s. So technically, yeah, that team got a bit younger. Think about it. They did get younger. They dumped Paul Gasol, who's in his mid-30s. Chokinoa, he's in his early 30s. Mike Dudley Jr. in his mid-30s. They got with those three. Aaron Brooks, I believe he's in his early 30s, maybe late 20s, but close to his early 30s. You only got three players under contract with the Chicago Bulls in their 30s. Technically, they did get a bit younger. Not as athletic. Sure, you're right about that, but they're not as athletic. Yeah, especially including Dwayne Wade, even though he's not as athletic like he used to be. But they did get a bit younger. Think about it. And the signing of Dwayne Wade possible help in terms of getting a big time free agents for the next 2 years, next year and possibly 2018 in free agency with the signing of Dwayne Wade. And I still believe Dwayne Wade can contribute. And to be fair, as much as I don't like the sign of Rajon Rondo, I think he can contribute in a sense, but you need to get players that fit the play with the shooters. You probably need to mostly play Doug McDermott, Nikola Mirotic, Denzel Fountain to play alongside with Rajon Rondo. This is up to Fred Hoiberg to come up with the lineups in the situation to play in the best lineup on the floor to help his team chance to win games. So we see what happens. I would say this: if the Chicago Bulls didn't sign Dwayne Wade and just sign just Rajon Rondo and that's it, and you call it the off season, and maybe sign players like Isaac Cannon, that kind of stuff, but that's it, then I will give the grade to maybe like a F plus or a D minus. However, with the sign of Dwayne Wade, it will help give like a little flavor. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but boost the Chicago Bulls back to in terms of relevant. Sure, they won't be contenders. They will not be contenders this year, but they will and should be a playoff team for this coming season. Should be. That's the key. Should be a playoff team. And I would say the grade I would give the Chicago Bulls, I would say a C minus or a solid C. Either a solid C or a C minus. That's the grade I will give for the Chicago Bulls for this off season. I disagree with the other people's grade, including the media outlets, the national media outlet like ESPN and other fan base that give grades to the Bulls to a D or a F. I disagree with that because that's more in terms of bad fit, and I understand, and I agree with it. It's in terms of fitting, in terms of fit with the signing of Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo, it's a bad fit. And you include Jimmy Butler starting. They're not known as the outside shooters, and that same when with Robin Lopez, who's probably very likely start at the center position. He's not known as an outside shooter either. So I understand it's a bad feeling, but that's from the one perspective to look, but that's more like a lopsided perspective. How do I say this? Yeah, I'm probably right. I should say I'm right, but I probably say, and I did say lopsided argument, lopsided perspective regarding just when you look one side in terms of bad fit, which I agree with. But from looking at other perspective, from the short term and from the long term, now I'm not saying we will sign a big time free agent the next 2 years. You never know though. I doubt it, but this could change the coach of letting those big time free agents this team in. Because Dwayne Wade, despite his age, he's still a respectful player. Still, and I still think he can contribute at least the next 2 years. And it's possible he could learn the top free agents. We'll see. Um, in terms of nothing's guaranteed. I understand that, but for the people who wants like the team to rebuild, which I was up for it with the rebuilding mode, but but just like in free agency, in drafts, in trades, in players development, that kind of stuff. In rebuilding mode, nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. Um, that's the bottom line. Um, if the Bulls didn't do nothing, if the Bulls, let me ask you a question. If the Bulls trade after the Bulls trade Derrick Rose, let's say if the I know one of those what ifs. If the Bulls trade Jimmy Butler as well for Chris Dunn and to go for full completely rebuilding mode, what's your great what's your and they don't sign anyone significant in free agency this summer and to go for a full rebuilding mode, what is your grade you give for the Chicago Bulls? The same grade that you give, maybe a D or an F or a C or whatever? Because I tell you this, if the Bulls did move Jimmy Butler as well and go for a completely rebuilding mode, the grades I will give them will be incomplete because it's hard to grade any teams that go for a complete rebuilding mode because you don't know how the players turn out the next few years, and you don't know how the draft picks gonna turn out few years because it takes few years for the players to develop. It's gonna take years after years after years of losing to get those top players, get those superstar. Which even though you get a top, even though there's no guarantee of getting a top draft pick in the NBA lottery, which is no guarantee as well. Something to keep that in mind. Even if they do land a top draft pick and draft a potential superstar, that's no guarantee that player will turn out as you hope. No matter where they draft, nothing is guaranteed. That's why I want to give grades if the Bulls did the complete opposite. Traded after traded Derrick Rose, they traded also Jimmy Butler and do a complete full rebuild mode. I will give an incomplete grade until maybe the next few years, see how things develop. Plain and simple. But we're not in a full rebuilding mode. The team is and they clearly after they sign Dwayne Wade and even Rajon Rondo, they're completely doing a retool. They're retooling the team. Of course, like I say, nothing guaranteed. There's no guarantee if this is gonna work. Nothing guaranteed at all. I understand about the bad fit, but you have to look in another perspective. That this could be in terms of excitement. They may give excitement, give this team relevant again with the sign of Dwayne Wade. And this may help. Another thing to think about, another perspective, this may help Jimmy Butler grow even bigger. Grow much a better player to develop. It showed over the last few seasons he stats improve, and he showed improvement by watching it when you watch him play when he played during the regular season the last few years. Especially on the offensive end, he improves So with the signs right away, and maybe even Washawando, this may help improve uh, Jimmy Butler even more to become a better, become a better player, and maybe even become a better leader later down the line, later down the road. Even though, even though to be fair, even though both Dre Way and Washawando did say that this is Jimmy Butler's team, both of them with their championship pedigree can help rub Jimmy Butler in a great way. That's another perspective to look. This is another reason why I give the grade of C minus or a solid C for this Chicago Bulls off season. For the people who give grades to a D or a F, they don't look the other perspective. They only look one perspective that way, and that's bad fit. Which I understand that, but that's more a lopsided fit, more a lopsided to look at it at that perspective. That's the bottom line. And besides, let's talk about fit real quick. I understand that this, in terms of importance of spacing, I understand you need spacing, and it is important. You need shooters to help players like Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler, those guys to get room to get in the paint more, get their job much easier. I understand that, but sometimes they rely on people and other fan base rely on copying Golden State Warriors too much. If you have the personal, that's fine. But sometimes, a lot of times, there's a saying. And that saying goes: you live by the three, you die by the three. You don't always rely on one aspect of the game. Of course, I want balance. I want the team to be in terms of balance. And yeah, the Chicago Bulls, in protection of their starting lineup, is a bad fit. But you can't rely just spacing and the Bulls do have shooters actually. Think about it. They do have shooters. Not proven yet, even though they show little significant, like Doug McDermott. He showed some significant last season. Nikola Milovic shoot like about 39% behind the arc, so there's that. And you got Denzel Valentine, even though he is a rookie, so he's unproven at the moment. And there are most likely probably play off the bench, except maybe Nikola will most likely start at the 4, and you got Bobby Portis maybe stretch the 4, even though he's unproven at the moment. Fred Hoiberg had to use imagination. Use his head to help balance the floor to give the best lineup to help win games. Mix things up. Mix with the shooters, some of the shooters, as I mentioned just a while ago, to play with the stars like Rajon, Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler. Mix it up if you need to help create in terms of spacing. But you don't fall in love of just shooting threes and just that kind of stuff. No, you don't. That doesn't work that way. It's in terms of quality basketball game, ball movement, find open shots, take it. If it's from the shot behind the arc, take it. In the paint, take it. That draw the foul, get to the foul line, take it. Set good screens, pick and rolls, pick and pops. Defense, that's the most important. Play great defense, rebounding, those type of things that help you win games. Not just we need spacing. Let's copy the Golden State Warriors model and shoot a lot of threes or a lot of jumpers, that kind of stuff. No, it doesn't work that way. Yes, I know the NBA basketball change now in today's NBA. You need spacing, and like I said earlier, spacing is important, and the Bulls have bad fit. But I don't look at just that perspective. I look at other perspective as well, both perspective. That's why I give a C or a C minus for the Chicago Bulls off season. To their credit, they were busy in the off season. That's the bottom line. Now let's talk about real quick, little short, quick about ESPN's rankings. I want to talk about it for a bit. ESPN, just I think maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago, ESPN, from the people who covered the NBA section on the ESPN from their site, did some rankings. The rankings from uh, worst players, was the worst. I want to say not worst player, worst newcomer on the team that make who's the worst, moves or worst acquire, who's the worst new player with their new teams. And I disagree with it. I he's he's been proved to me their lack of NBA knowledge and lack of basketball internal knowledge. They rank Rajon Rondo as the first ranked number one worst newcomer for the Chicago Bulls, and they rank Derrick Rose number two on the ranking. Now, I agree they should be on the list, but they rank way too high over guys like Moscow, um, Evan Turner, who was way overpaid from the Portland Trail Blazers. Who else? Uh, Man, or the Lakers overpaid Luol Deng, or the New York Knicks overpaid Chokanoa, who has knee and foot issues in his early 30s, and this is coming from a person who's a big fan, and Chokanoa is one of my favorite Chicago Bulls player. Come on now, they went both Derrick Rose. I understand they list them, and they should be on the list of the worst newcomers, but rank number one and number two, I disagree. We're in that position um, over guys like Moscow or Evan Turner. Um, that's I just disagree with it. I apologize for some little what's call it interruptions right now. That's why I'm a little stuttering right now, just right now because my dog's barking for some reason. But I apologize for that. What else? Yeah. They rank Rajon Rondo number one worst newcomer um, for the worst newcomer, and rank number two, rank Derrick Rose as number two. That's way too high for them. They shouldn't be that high. No, not over guys like Moscow, Evan Turner's. Um, those guys. Those guys should be much ahead than them. Sorry about that, but they should be. Especially Moscow should be ranked number one. Evan Turner should be ranked probably number two, maybe number three. Um, that's the bond. I really disagree with ESPN with their rankings. Um, it's that's pretty much it. Um, I think that covers everything. I apologize. I try to look for the rankings list because I can't remember from the top of my head right now. I apologize for it. So, you know what? Let me see if I can find those ranking lists so I can give you those completely ranking lists, the worst newcomers. Um, oh, and let's talk about real quick. ESPN do have rankings in terms of who they predict where the teams are at for this season in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. In the East, in the Eastern Conference, ESPN have the Chicago Bulls at number 10. Now that I can see that happen. I can actually agree with that. That even though I did say that the Bulls on paper, the Bulls could and I think will make the playoffs, and they should be make the playoffs. It's just a playoff team, just only like maybe first or second round elimination. But then I could also see them fall apart and not make the playoffs again. So I actually agree with ESPN there, which is very rare for me to agree with them with their analyze that covers the NBA. So so there's that. Excuse me. Um, what else? I try to look for it. Man, you know what? I used to have that list, and you know what? Okay, I think I found it. I apologize, everyone. Um, the worst newcomer. Okay, I already said Wajawanda was ranked number one, which I disagree. Derrick Rose was ranked number two worst newcomer, which I disagree. And they ranked Timmy Mascow number three, which he should be number one. They ranked Harris Barnes number four. Honestly, I thought he should rank maybe number three. To be honest with you, either he or Evan Turner should rank number three or number two. One of those. I think Evan Turner should be number two and Barnes number three. Um, that's the bottom line. Um, so I'm sorry, but ESPN got the rankings wrong. I know they entitled their opinion, but it's just a bad ranking and bad analysis from their part. Yes, Derrick Rose and Rajon Rondo should be on the list in the ranks in terms of worst newcomers, protection of the worst newcomers, but they shouldn't be ranked that high. They shouldn't be ranked both number one and number two respectively, not over guys like Mozgow's, Evan Turner's, and Harrison Barnes, those guys, or even Joakim Nolan. Sorry, but I disagree with that. And you know what? I think that covers everything. So yeah, feel free to post your comment under on my YouTube channel. Tell me what you think about my perspective regarding the Chicago Bulls off season. My what do you think? Do you agree or disagree the grades I give the Chicago Bulls in the off season? Um, Feel free to post a comment or even tweet me too. You can follow me again. You can follow me on Twitter, which is PDUH10. Again, my Twitter is PDUH10. You follow me on Twitter, and on YouTube, my Bulls Talk podcast is right as of right now. It's only on YouTube at the moment. Um, Feel free to subscribe to. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for the Bulls Talk podcast. Please click like on if you like. Click like on the podcast if you like this episode or any episode that you have listened. Um, and I say this again, time after time. I will keep saying this. Feedback, suggestion is always welcome. Okay. I want to thank everyone who listened to this podcast. I would like to thank everyone who still listens to this podcast. And I'd like to thank for anyone who's new to listen to this podcast, the new listeners. Thank you, and I hope you keep listening to this podcast. As for the next episode, I'm hoping it'll be next Sunday. I'm not 100% sure actually on this, but it's possible maybe next Sunday is the next episode. So if it's not next Sunday, well, next Sunday will be the earliest. If it's not next Sunday, then it'll be in 2 weeks at the latest for the next episode. So we'll see what happens. I might change a different day. It's possible. I usually try to do this podcast every Sunday, but I mean, as of right now, I'm doing it every Sunday right now. But I may change it to every Saturday. So we'll see what happens. But so the next episode is most likely next Sunday at the earliest. But if not, it'll be the week after in 2 weeks. That's the latest. So thank you everyone and have a good day.